Well, it's no secret that we are sitting on a mountain of inflation right now. And as we're broadcasting to you right now, Congress is debating whether or not to add another $1.7 trillion of stimulus money into the economy on top of the $29 trillion that we're already sitting on top of in the United States. Where do things go from here? Are we on the verge of an economic collapse? Well, if there's one person that always has his pulse on the future of the trends in the United States and the economic outlook, it is Gerald Celente. He is the founder of Trends Research Institute, celebrating 40 years of research. And it's great to see Gerald. He's here on the show with us today. Our friendship goes back many, many years to New York City when I used to anchor the news there, and we would have Gerald on the show to prognosticate about what Congress was doing, what the federal government was doing, where the U.S. dollar was headed. And so I thought, with all of this craziness, let's have him here on the show. Gerald, it's great to see you, my friend.
Great being on. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate being on with you. Thanks.
Yeah, my pleasure.
We had great times together back in those days.
That's true. But you've been busy, man. You've been cranking away and doing some great research. And, I wanted to get you on. Obviously, we're recording this as Congress is debating adding an additional $1.7 trillion into the economy, so to speak, depending on where it goes in the economy, if it's a big wet kiss for Wall Street. We're sitting right now today, as we're broadcasting, the U.S. dollar is maybe at its strongest point that we've seen in about a year or more, up against the euro and in Japan and the Turkish lira. But we're sitting on this massive amount of inflation as more and more Americans just can't afford to even put Thanksgiving dinner on their table this year. As we look at this horizon right now, Gerald, where do you see things heading for the U.S. economy?
Well, the U.S. economy is going to go down like all of them, but only when they raise interest rates. I had forecast different things that didn't come out. For example, I thought the whole thing would collapse in 2012. They didn't teach me about negative and zero interest rate policy in Economics 101 or graduates.
Right.
They're making this crap up. When you look at the real interest rate in the United States, we're looking at inflation at what, 6.2%? According to John Williams' shadow stat, it's at 14%, but let's say 6.2%. Okay, 6.2% inflation. And what's your interest rate? Oh, near zero? No. Your interest rate is actually a negative 5.3. So they're dumping in all this monetary methadone to keep the money junkies high. And it's working. Because you look at the numbers coming in on Wall Street. Oh, Walmart's doing great. Oh, Home Depot's doing great. Oh, all the bigs are doing great. Why? Because they have no competition. All that cheap money, you're looking at merger and acquisition activity at an all-time high. You're looking at hedge funds, private equity groups. They own the world. So the bigs are getting bigger and everybody else is going down. When I was a young guy many years ago, they had things called drugstores, hardware stores, stationery stores, grocery stores. Stores are gone. Now it's chains. The chains own everything, and all we are plantation workers on the global plantation of Slavelandia. So the reality is the markets have nothing to do with reality. All they're doing is building the monopolies bigger. Let's go back to interest rates. When they raise interest rates, this thing is going to go down. You mentioned the debt level, $30 trillion. Okay, what's going to happen when interest rates go up? Oh, you have to pay more on your debt. How about all these phony, slimy lowlives that are these big hedge funds and private equity groups? Oh, isn't it great you mentioned that people can't afford anything in America? Can't afford to buy a house. Average price of a home, $364,000. Oh, you're working on the plantation of Amazon? What are you making? Oh, now we're giving them $15, $16 an hour. Oh, great,
Right.
30-something $1,000 a year after taxes, expenses, and everything. What do you have? 62.50 a week left in a hernia? What could you buy? Let's go back and make the connection. The hedge funds, the private equity
Right.
group, Blackstone's, buying up all the homes. Over a third of the houses that have been bought in the last quarter are from the private equity groups and hedge funds. And what are they doing? They're renting them out to the plantation workers.
And rents are going up. And rents are going up.
Rents are going up. Can't afford to buy a home. It's a disgrace. And again, I want to make this really clear. Let's stop calling them the government. It's a crime syndicate.
Hallelujah.
So look what happened. The banks are too big to fail. You're just a piece of crap. Well, we got to bail out with the Federal Reserve, $29 trillion. $29 trillion from 2007 to 2010 into the banks, and look how big they've gotten. Yeah, and then they're murderers and thieves. They're thieves and murderers. Look, hey, what didn't they do a great job with that Afghan war? I want that guy Gaddafi out of there. Oh, great.
Right.
What the Nobel Peace of Crap Prize Obama did to Libya. Only the richest country in Africa. Now it's a hellhole.
Right.
Oh, Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction and ties to Al-Qaeda. Look at them. How much more proof do people need of what's going on? And look at the clowns that are leading them. Oh, you look up to Mitch McConnell? No, maybe Lindsey Graham. I like Nancy Pelosi, little Chucky Schumer. Look at the idiots and morons running and ruining the nation. It's a crime syndicate. As George Carlin said, it's one big club and you ain't in it.
And you have someone like Joe Manchin. We're now learning, Gerald. Joe Manchin is doing the interviews right now for the new Federal Reserve, literally sitting down and conducting interviews as if Joe Manchin is president of the United States, is interviewing selective candidates possibly to take over for Jerome Powell at the Federal Reserve. What the hell is happening?
Again, like I said, clowns are in charge. Oh, the Federal Reserve? You mean the banksters? If there's one lowlife, and there are many of them, that were presidents of the United States, Woodrow Wilson comes out number one. This is a slime ball that got us into World War I, helped destroy Europe, and I'm a Yankee Doodle Dandy. Yeah, wonderful. We had no business being there. Gave us the Federal Reserve and gave us federal income taxes. The Federal Reserve is a private bank. And look at the clown running. Oh, if only a woman was in charge. Yeah, Janet Yellen, former head of the Federal Reserve, now the U.S. Treasury Secretary. And again, I'm tired of this crap about, race, creed, and color. Good and bad comes in all of them. Look who you got running the ECB over there. Christine Lagarde. How many crime charges was she brought up on when she was running things in France? Again, it's a crime syndicate that we have the U.S. Treasury Secretary, the former head of a private banking system. Grow up, everybody.
Where is our money? Where is our money supposed to go right now? When we see the U.S. dollar, looking actually slightly strong, right? We get this sort of false sense of security, right, about the U.S. dollar. And then suddenly we'll have the rug pulled out from under us once again. When on this show we talk about the corruption of the U.S. banks, I talk about the corruption of the U.S. government, and if you have your money tied to the U.S. dollar, you are cruising for a bruising. Where do you suggest people put their money right now?
I do not give financial advice, speaking only for myself. GSB, gold, silver, Bitcoin.
Yeah.
That's what I've been investing in. That's what I invest in. And again, the dollar is strong because who's the competition? They have no competition. Look what's going on in Japan, the third largest country. Oh, they just announced another $350 billion to dump more dough into that. Oh, they only have a debt to GDP ratio of 266. China's only up near 300 debt to GDP ratio. Oh, and what happened in Japan? Oh, they're in a recession. They just had, well, not two quarters, but the first quarter they just went down. So, I mean, they're dumping in all this cheap money. The dollar is strong because they have no competition. But again, when interest rates go up big and hard, and to me, the number is 1.5%. Let's go back to 2018. Trump was going nuts, pushing Powell, the Fed chair, to lower interest rates. That was before the COVID war began.
Right.
Go back to 2019. Look at the last quarter. Oh, Germany was almost, they were a fraction of a percentage point from going into recession. India, 7 consecutive quarters of declining GDP in 2019. Protests going on all over the world: Lebanon, Algeria, India, Peru, Colombia, Brazil, not Brazil, Chile, one country after another. South Africa, France, people protesting, lack of basic living standards, violence, government corruption, going on and on. But then the COVID war breaks out, boom, no more protests. This thing was going down before this happened. And it's going to go down big, it's going to go down hard, and it's going to go down fast.
What I worry about, Gerald, really, I mean, is the average person, because you're plugged in. Obviously, you're analyzing these trends on a regular basis. You see the corruption. You see what these big banks are doing. I mean, we entered into this COVID period where you had fractional reserve banking, where a bank could only keep 10% of your money in the bank and lend out 90%. And then even that 10% was waived during the pandemic, so that banks had 100% access to lend your money out. We know that the United States banking system is in the 40th or almost 50th for most unsafe banks for you to have your money.
Yeah.
The little guy is going to get screwed when this collapses. Try to go to a bank and get your money out of a bank. You've got $20,000 in the bank. Try to go and get that out this afternoon. They'll laugh at you, right? You'll get like a few $100s. They maybe tell you to come back tomorrow, and they don't have that money in the bank. So what is going to happen to the little guy in all of this?
They're shafted already. Median household income in 2020 had its biggest decline ever since they've been doing the numbers. Again, everything is going to the bigs. Right. Everything. And so, again, we talked about the apartment rentals and on and on. It's a crime syndicate. It breaks my heart to see what's happened to America. This isn't my America. It used to be the land of opportunity.
Right.
All my aunts, my uncles, they opened fish stores, grocery stores, they construction, they started, they made a living. You can't do that anymore. You know what's going on now? We just heard CVS, again, chains.
Right.
They're closing 900 stores.
Yeah.
900 stores.
How many employees in those 900 stores out of work now?
Yep. And what are they paying them anyway? Nothing.
Right.
Nothing. You go into these places, it's the atmosphere, there isn't any. And
you talked about Amazon. You talked about Amazon earlier. Working basically this plantation economy, and they will spend millions of dollars to fight increasing wages. Right? They'll put up propaganda and signs all over to make sure that you don't unionize and fight for a better wage. They will work their tails off to make sure that you don't get an increased wage, keep you at this artificially low level, raking in record profits. And the American worker is now paying more for a house, more for rent. Their paycheck it's not paying enough it's going way less than it used to. So the price of food, gasoline, we saw the heating oil costs that are hitting now for the winter time. It's going to be off the charts. So the little guy is going to get screwed. I've taken my money. I got out of there, man. I took my money out of the U.S. banking system. It's corrupt.
Oh, yeah.
But I want my audience to listen to you, and I want them to do something to take action here. And how can they protect themselves? Like if they're relying on a U.S. bank account, what would you have them do? Not to give financial advice, but if this were you right now, what would you be doing?
I'm telling you what I'm doing. I'm buying gold, silver, and Bitcoin. And I'll tell you a quick story. I go to the bank. I told them we got to take X amount of dollars out. We're moving. And I go to the bank, and they said, what are you doing with this money? I said, none of your business.
They're going to ask you that?
Yeah, they actually asked me this. And I said to them, why should I keep my money here when you're making money off me and you're not giving me anything? When 9/11 happened, I had forecast this was going to happen. USA Today used to run my top trends every year, and it was 2001 won't be our year, Trendseer says. They warned the wave of anti-Americanism was sweeping the globe. Anyway, when 9/11 happened, this didn't shock me. One of the first things I did, I had CDs. They used to get CDs in those days.
Right.
And I had a lot of dough. And I forgot the name of the bank, but they were bought out by another one. And I call up right away, and I said, listen, I want my money transferred I was living in Rhinebeck, New York at the time. I want to transfer it to the Rhinebeck Bank. And he said, I'm sorry, Mr. Celente, we can't transfer it. CDs are traded on the stock exchange, and the stock exchange is closed.
Oh.
You got it? So I have the three GC's, three G's: guns, gold, and a getaway plan. And when everybody was freaking out, that's what I was doing. I had my gold, my guns, and I'm thinking, if they're going to hit this, if this was going on the way they said, and I know this area really well, there's the Indian Point nuclear power plant, 30 miles north of New York City, and they're going down the Hudson River. They blow that thing up, there's going to be insanity like we've never seen. In those days, they had maps, and I took out a bunch of maps, had back roads going to Canada. I'm about 4 hours from there. And I was going to leave. If I figured from Canada, I could get out from anywhere. But if something happens like that in the States, you're not going to be able to get out. And I was taking back roads because I know they cut back the big roads. Anyway, what I'm saying to people, prepare for the worst. If the worst doesn't happen and you're prepared for it, you lost nothing. If the worst happens and you haven't prepared, you could lose everything. And number one, get in the best shape you can, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And think for yourself. It's not illegal yet, but it will be.
That's great advice, right? Because, you can be focused on the money and let your body go to waste, right? Yeah, eating all of the American processed food and the entire system is rigged against Americans. I mean, from the health system to the food system in the United States to the banking system. It's all about those crooks on Wall Street that are making money at the detriment to the American people. I want to talk about the liquidity question, though. We saw, like in Greece, right? When you try to go get your money out of a bank. We saw it in Afghanistan just a few months ago in August, right? People who were in Afghanistan went to the banks to try to get their money out, and the banks were closed and gone, and they couldn't get their money out. So the liquidity question, if you're in Bitcoin, you're in gold, you're in silver, being able to I guess get a credit card, whether it's with like crypto.com or one of those like digital wallet companies where you can actually have access to your Bitcoin as a digital wallet. And if you have to hit the road and drive to Canada, it doesn't matter, right? You don't need to rely on a big bank.
Nope. And again, you're making a very important point. Again, the crime syndicate will do anything. The government's run by 4 gangs, as I see it. The bankster gang, the military-industrial complex that Dwight D. Eisenhower, 5-star general, Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces, warned that was taking over the nation in his farewell address, January 17th, 1961. What people call Big Pharma, they're drug dealers. Stop with this BS, Big Pharma. They're drug dealers. And number 4, Big Tech. That you have these little clowns. I'll tell you what you can say. I'm a little Zuckerberg. I'm some little piece of crap. I'll tell you what to say. I'm a Dorsey. I'm a freak. I'll tell you what to say. I'm a pitch-eye. Look at the people that are running and ruining our lives. So going back, you're making such an important point because they'll do anything. Go back to 1933. Turn in all your gold. Turn in all your gold.
Oh, was it legal to have gold?
We'll give it to you for $22 an ounce. And then after you stupid jerks turn it in, we're going to raise the price to $33 an ounce.
So they artificially get a raise just for collecting all of this gold. You're absolutely right. I mean, this channel, my viewers know. I mean, our channel was shut down because we were telling the truth.
Yep.
Because we had big tech that swooped in and wouldn't even tell us. We were reporting the truth straight from the government. Well, what they claimed was the truth, and they shut us down.
I know. I just did a gig down in Miami with Mark Moss, Market Disruptors, and Dr. Joe McCullough was there. And I was very honored. He gave me his book and he says, thank you for all you're doing. Mercola, they took this guy off.
Yeah.
He started talking. He started crying, as he's giving his talk. All his work this guy's done. And again, only the facts. Who's dying from COVID? Oh, you mentioned in the United States, the shit that they eat. Oh, only 70% of Americans are overweight and 42% are obese. And according to the CDC, only 78% of the people that have been hospitalized are obese or type 2 diabetics or obesity.
Right.
Again, the facts don't count. You're not allowed to talk about facts. But what you're saying to people is so important. You better prepare for them to steal everything you have and keep it for themselves. This is unprecedented in world history. And it's global. That's the point. It's not only America. It's going on. We become the Chinese way. You must obey.
Right.
We used to make fun of them for wearing masks. We used to make fun of them for locking down cities. And here we are.
No, and just watch. And I would even add maybe a fifth to this, because the whole point of my channel is that I used to work in the mainstream media, and I think that these mainstream media organizations that are run by essentially these billionaires who, it's all part of this entire problem. We watched last week what happened in Argentina. We watched the New York Times lie in its reporting about what was happening in the Argentinian election. And there's so much focus on, the corruption around the Argentinian election. Never mind the fact that all of the corruption that takes place right in our own government. When you have members of Congress becoming millionaires off of trades that they're making on Wall Street, overseeing the stock market essentially, knowing about what's happening in the stock market, making trades, calling up their brokers right as they get out of secret committee hearings, and they're able to make millions of dollars. Stop lecturing the rest of the world about how America is anti-corruption when you guys are the most corrupt group in the world.
Again, look at Nancy Pelosi. She's so brilliant. She's $100 million? Another
Right.
daddy's girl. Either daddy's boys or daddy's girls. She'd be a nobody if a daddy wasn't mayor of Baltimore back in the big day. And look, like I got this little clown I had over here in New York, little Andy Cuomo, a daddy's boy. Up there in Canada, Trudeau. Look at that little arrogant piece of crap. Daddy got him there. Look at the murderous little scumbag we had that was president of the United States that got us into the Afghan and Iraq war. Little Georgie Bush, a daddy's boy. It's one big club and you ain't in it. And you're talking about corruption. How about that scum over there in the former president of the Fed Bank in Texas, Kaplan, and the other jerk up here in Massachusetts over here, Rosengren, playing the markets before the Fed announces what they're going to do.
Exactly. And then Jerome Powell on top of it.
Jerome Powell, yeah.
Three of them, right? Yep. So they're
and
literally...
That's what we know about.
Exactly. Making trades in a market that you basically control and can funnel $120 billion a month to make sure that you're buying up their junk bonds because they don't want to. I mean, the corruption goes on, but the bottom line for our audience is to pay attention to what Gerald says. He's been accurate time and time again on his predictions about what is happening in this U.S. economy and the future of this country. I encourage you to go over to trendsjournal.com and sign up, read the journal. I read it constantly. It's a game changer. You absolutely need to read it. Gerald, just bottom line this for us. You got to get out of here right now. What do you see over the next year in 2022? What would you say to my audience?
The wildest year we've ever seen. This thing is going to go, it's going to go crazy. They're locking down Austria, Germany, other places, Czech Republic, Slovakia, on and on, more vaccine mandates, no freedom if you don't have it. Again, the motto of the Trends Journal is think for yourself. It's still legal. But making the point, the economy is going to go down. You're looking at gas prices now. Brent crude just went below $80 a barrel because the demand is going to go down. We're going to go into a wild ride. And by the way, I also started a church. If you go to freedompeacejustice.com, freedompeacejustice.com, Universal Church of Freedom, Peace, and Justice, and we're offering religious vaccine exemptions, They're off the charts. People have been using them international and national, and with great success. Again,
Wow.
if you want to get vaccinated, it's your choice. But how about freedom?
Yeah.
And
Hallelujah.
yeah,
What about freedom? Well, you don't have that in Austria right now with compulsory vaccinations that are
I
now
know.
taking place. And I just got back from Austria last week, and we just got out of there just before this happened. It was unbelievable. So, Gerald, it's great catching up with you. Don't be a stranger. I'd love to have you back here on the
I
show
love
more
you.
often.
Yeah, thank you.
We're speaking the same language, but
no.
I love your deep dive into this data and be able to forecast all of this. So I recommend everyone go over and check out trendsjournal.com to get signed up. Gerald, great seeing you, my friend.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all that you do in the fight for freedom.
Thank you. Thanks, Gerald. Have a great Thanksgiving.
You too. Bye-bye.